Hi, this is Chico Resch. You are listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast on the Primetime Radio Network.
Happy Devils Thursday. This is Game Day Live, coming to you live from American Whiskey. No, we're not. From the Primetime Radio Studios inside the bunker. Undisclosed location in beautiful New Jersey. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, Twitch, and now on Instagram Live on the Let's Go Devils Network. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Vinnie Parise out of Chicago, Illinois. Yeah. Devils Penguins tonight. My game is off. My game is off. I was reading American Whiskey somewhere on the board, and I'm just like now all discombobulated with my opening statements here on the Game Day Live.
You know what, Sam? It doesn't matter where you're at. You're always bringing the energy. You're always bringing the fun. You might as well be at American Whiskey having a drink with, how well you're doing. So you were all over TV yesterday. You were all over everywhere. Everyone's getting a little bit of the Sam Wu experience over these last couple days. And, the Devils looked like the Devils yesterday. All of the Olympians on Team USA who played yesterday looked better than I thought they would. I'll put it that. Even Jack had the one assist at the end, feeding Timo Meier to get them within. But Tage Thompson scored a goal, had an assist. Austin Matthews had an assist. I think Jake Gensel had a point. Of all the U.S. Olympians who played yesterday, they were a little bit better than I expected. Now, tonight we'll see how it goes against the Sidney Crosby-less Pittsburgh Penguins.
It was interesting about yesterday's game, Vinny. I kind of got caught off guard. I couldn't believe the national media attention on that game. Like, it's one thing about talking about Team USA, Jack Hughes, and all that kind of stuff, but residing near New York City, a lot of them came. I didn't realize, I did that interview for Fox and Friends on Fox News, Carly Shimkus, which, by the way, it's been airing all day. And then another host, Emily Campagno, said that I was a wonderful fan. I was like, that's cool. That's cool. Not that my head is getting bigger or anything, just a reminder to Mrs. Wu that, she's married to a celebrity now. So, so my demands are going to be high.
You somewhat are a local legend a little bit. I remember, now a couple people approached me at the Prudential Center when I was there both times, not to brag. I put content out. I know you hate that word. I put it out there. People read it. It's going well. But it is nothing compared to how many times I heard people woo at you while we were doing the Stadium Series shenanigans. So you are a little bit of a local legend around there. I don't think it's anything to, joke about.
Maybe I'm going mainstream right now,
Maybe you are.
Doing interviews on national, it's like national news, right? Also found out that remember Kennedy from MTV years ago? VJ, with Jesse Camp. We're talking years ago, like early 90s. She was at the game. Like, there was just random people at the game. Dina from Jersey Shore was at the game, but that was planned a year ago.
It was down the shore night, right?
Yeah. So they had that. PK Subban was at the game. Gary
sitting
Bettman
with Commissioner Bettman.
Yeah, Gary
and
Bettman.
And Harrison Blitzer too. It was like, I'm like, one guy's a player, one guy's a commissioner, and two owners. It was just an interesting setup there.
Yeah. And I wasn't really dressed for success last night. I wish I'd got my hair cut, which is going to be tomorrow. And I actually get my haircut from somebody that also does another famous person's hair as well, and it's very similar style, believe it or not. But that's happening tomorrow afternoon. So Saturday or Sunday, when you see me on the Let's Go Devils podcast network, you're just going to be blown away with my hair, because now that I'm a celebrity, I got to be 24/7, 365. I've got to look good, in front of the camera.
Absolutely. Now, you did get a little help from Jack Hughes, who kind of did bring some mainstream. They broadcasted the whole speech thing live on TNT during their
Wow.
pregame show.
Really?
Like,
Okay.
like the entire thing was, I was worried because I watch the Devils through ESPN Plus, so I stream it, and I wasn't sure if ESPN Plus, if the game would turn on in time for the game, because you got to wait till a certain time and then it loads in. I was worried I would miss it. I didn't because ESPN Plus it opened it in time, but if I did, it would have been I would have been able to watch it on TNT. I thought that was crazy. There was a lot of attention on his first game back. I'm glad he got a point at the end of the game. I know they lost and they get breakaways and miss the net. Like they have some serious finishing problems in the organization right now, and I really don't know how to fix it.
Turnovers.
I don't know how to fix it. But yeah, they turned the puck over a lot. But I mean, I thought for the first 40 minutes of the game, they played well enough to win, and it didn't go in for them. And I really, it's not like they gave up a ton of goals. Tage Thompson made a nice play to get the puck on the Jack Hughes turnover, and then, later in the game, was it Krebs who gave them a 2-1 lead? I don't exactly remember who it was that scored for Buffalo, but I know Thompson had an assist. It was a nice play, and right, a 2-goal deficit for the Devils right now just feels like Mount Rushmore to climb. It's just not where you want to be, but I think yesterday was proof that the Olympic break is not going to be the elixir that fixes the New Jersey Devils down the stretch. They're not going to go to the playoffs this year. But we kind of talked about it on yesterday's show. I guess that's not what this is about right now. It's about playing, certain players on the team, though who they are, kind of just doing what they can to play well enough going into the offseason, and hopefully you get a good reset over the summer that allows them to come into next year playing the way they were in the early stages of this season.
It's a major contrast how they started the season at 8-1. Right.
You beat Colorado. They took 3 or 4 from Colorado.
Yeah. And, of course, there was some drama midseason, whether it was injuries or potential trade. Things got really murky, right? Right now, I mean, again, the Devils could go on a run, but after last night, brought us back to reality. You have to look at it objectively. It is a business. And I think everybody, you're going to have to take a hard look at how to retool and reload this team. And it starts by shedding salary right now. It doesn't matter what happens, whether you are making a playoff run or not. Those contracts are a killer. And if you want to improve this team, you're most likely going to get a lottery pick, probably 10 to 15 at this point, maybe a little higher depending upon the luck of the draw and how that whole system works. But you're also going to need that space to acquire players via trade or free agency. And right now, you're kind of strapped with these no movement clause contracts. You can only move the contracts that are movable, like Dawson Mercer right now. Or you look at somebody like Dougie Hamilton, where, okay, he's got a $9 million AAV, but his contract was front-loaded cash flow-wise, where another team picking up would take that cap hit, but from their bank account, they're not exactly paying him that full $9 million because that was already done up front, which kind of makes him a little bit of attractiveness. But the Devils are having a hard time trading Dougie Hamilton because he's got a partial no movement, I believe, at this moment in his contract. So, who else could be available? Do you look at a veteran that hasn't won a Stanley Cup like Brendan Dillon, 35 years old, $4 million AAV? Would you move him at this point to get him off his no movement clause? Would you look at other players as well, to find teams to actually take on salary, but they really want certain prospects that you have in your system. So, right now, Vinny, it's not a good situation. The Olympic success of Jack Hughes and the Devils got a temporary reprieve here. There were a lot of people not wanting to renew their season tickets. But once they struck gold, the deadline was actually Tuesday this week to commit. And because Jack Hughes scored that goal, my sense is that's when everybody started to renew. As crazy as that sounds.
No, it's possible because he did show during the tournament that he has what it takes to get it done when the stakes are high. So if the team did make a change at general manager and head coach, that if the right people were brought in and they did, make some roster construction, Jack Hughes is the type of guy you clearly can build around. I think he proved that in the Olympics.
Yep.
I also think 2 months have gone by and we haven't heard much off the ice from the Minnesota Wild. Quinn's been incredible since going there. He arguably has been better there than he was in Vancouver, which is saying something because he won a Norris Trophy. His game has reached another level as well. The Minnesota Wild gave up 4 high-end assets to get Quinn Hughes, and they have him for a year and a half. The Devils didn't get Quinn Hughes, but there's still that thing where if he gets to July 1st, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, and there's no extension in place because he still has next year, but he's allowed to extend with the Wild starting July 1st. Then it starts to creep in, like, did the Devils actually win in the long run with this? Like, yeah, you wanted them then because I think they'd be in Pittsburgh's playoff spot right now. I agree with Nick Villano. They'd be in Pittsburgh's playoff spot right now if they did trade for Quinn in early December. But I don't know. I still think there's a chance you get them without having given up anything other than.
Well, I think the Olympics have kind of changed everything here. Now, I'm not talking about Jack Hughes, the player. I'm talking the optics here. Okay. Last night during his speech, he accomplished many things in that speech.
Yep.
At the moment, right now, as a New Jersey Devils fan, you heard the words, you read the words online this morning. You felt it in the building. He was very sincere when he said about being proud to representing the New Jersey Devils organization and the state of New Jersey. I believe those words were real. That wasn't scripted. I felt it. He was emotional. You heard it in his voice, and it gave a temporary reassurance to all Devils fans. Jack still has, 4 years left on his contract? Luke is signed for another 6 years after this year. The Hughes brothers, from right now, looks like they're 100% lock in New Jersey. I think what's going to happen with Quinn, that's going to be very interesting because he now has had that experience, that playoff experience in the Olympics playing with his brother Jack Hughes. The euphoria, what the possibilities of what it could be if all three of them play on one team, the Hughes brothers. And what you're going to see, Vinny, is I think there's going to be a delay on July 1st of that decision. Very similar to Zach Parise going back home, coincidentally, to the Minnesota Wild. And I think what's going to happen is July 1st, the Hughes brothers are going to talk it out. I'm sure they're going to talk it out with their family, what the deal is. And I think Quinn Hughes is going to delay. And Billy Guerin is not a stupid GM. I think the Devils, because of this Olympics, may have gotten their leverage back. Would you agree with that assessment, or am I painting a rosy picture here?
No, I completely agree. If you were to just read Jack's quotes on Twitter without watching it, it would just sound like, PR, what happened before the Olympics, a little bit of damage control. Then you watch the video. You hear it with your own 2 ears. You watch it with your own 2 eyes. He was halfway to crying.
Yep.
And it did feel very genuine. I know some people can put on an act. I don't think that was an act.
I don't think that's in
don't.
Jack's
It
personality
felt
to act.
me either. Because he's not that well media trained. People always say, "Oh, he's well media." Like Connor McDavid is exquisitely media trained. He knows how to say nothing in a. He could say 3 sentences and it'll say nothing. He's very well media trained. He's a robot.
He's boring. Sorry.
Jack Hughes, 9-game heater. You don't watch the game. He said some things.
Gato and Chill.
Gato and Chill. You remember that? Gato.
and then he's like, "Oh, I got in trouble with that. Sorry."
Yeah. Because they were sponsored by Powerade.
Yeah.
It's not one of those situations. I really don't think. And yes, they won together, and they each scored overtime game-winning goals. And there were a couple goals. One of Dylan Larkin's goals was assisted by Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes. When you looked on the app, it said Dylan Larkin from Hughes and Hughes. And it's cool. It's really cool to see. I do think the way that Quinn and Jack kind of unlock each other a little bit, you can throw Luke in that mix, because I think if he were on the same team, you would see a spike in his game, his motivation, everything. It would just be a really big win for the Devils. And I do think that there's a possibility that it happens. I do think the Devils do have a little bit of hope again after we saw what we saw in the Olympics. If they just lost out in the quarterfinal and none of this stuff really ever happened, you could see a world where it didn't go their way. But for right now, if I were watching the playoffs, which I'm going to be watching the playoffs, I almost said if I were watching the playoffs as a Devils fan, that is going to be my reality. I am that person. I would be rooting for the Minnesota Wild. I will be rooting for the Minnesota Wild, because if they win the cup this year, then Quinn Hughes doesn't owe them anything. He can leave. They'll be happy. They won't hate him. There will be zero problems.
And I'm going to make a kind of a comparison, because there was a lot of comparisons made about Jack Hughes and Patrick Kane, right? 2 American-born players, first overall. Similar styles in a lot of ways, but Kane was more of a winger, correct? I mean, you followed the Blackhawks.
Patrick Kane was firmly a winger.
Jack Hughes can be on the wing, but right now they've had him at center. Someone made a comment in the YouTube live, Jack may not be that guy. That guy being the captain, because right now Nico Hischier's the captain, but if Nico walks or he gets traded or something like that down the road, I think right now, if you want to compare them to the old Blackhawks, you had Duncan Keith, who was a leader on defense. That could be your Quinn Hughes. But who is going to be your Jonathan Taves to go alongside Jack Hughes? Is it going to be Nico Hischier, or is it going to be somebody else? I would
say Nico.
Okay. But I'm also going to say this whole Olympic thing has changed the narrative. And hear me out on this. Brady Tkachuk was answering a lot of tough questions through the media today. He is an Ottawa Senator. He is a villain in some respects with Canadian fans, because he was on Team USA, and for the most part, I have a lot of Canadian friends, and a lot of them don't like the President of the United States. There's that laughter incident. These are facts here. I'm not trying to insinuate that these are facts. At some point, I'm wondering, for Brady Tkachuk, does that alter his mindset of actually staying in Canada? Because we saw what happened with Matthew Tkachuk leaving Calgary, and I have a firm belief, and again, I don't have any proof here, but I think it had something to do with their experience during the COVID lockdown, and also wanting to be back home. Same with Johnny Gaudreau. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. I think they were maybe wanting to come back to the States. I'm wondering if that's enough over time that maybe Brady Tkachuk may want to think about moving on and request a trade, or run out his contract and then even come back to any of the NHL teams in the States. Because there was some brutal. They were hammering him. And I know the Canadian press. They're relentless. They're not gonna stop.
Do you know where Brady Tkachuk's wife is from?
Oh, I know all about it. Garden State.
Her brother was a Boston Bruins prospect.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually known about them for a long time. But yeah, they are from New Jersey. So
Yeah.
the Tkachuk, the Blues and either of the Tkachuks, although it would be really cool from a hockey perspective to see one of the Tkachuks play for the Blues one day.
Yeah.
Because that's where Walt played most of his career.
Maybe Matthew.
Yeah, it would have to be a late career. Florida's done, one of the worst teams in the league. Ships him off. He plays a season at home type of deal. But I don't really see it lining up with Brady's contract too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Philly's always an option when a guy's from New Jersey. Whenever there's a big marquee free agent, the Kings, the Leafs, the Rangers are all in the mix. So, that'll be an interesting story to follow, though, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer a couple questions in the YouTube live, but just to, on that note, right now the Devils have to play a game today. Devils and Pittsburgh, second half to back for the New Jersey Devils. I'm giving the Devils 3 games to kind of work out the bugs because they just came back from break, and especially when their best player right now is just. I don't know how he's doing these late interviews like with TNT after his schedule is so full. I don't think he's caught up on some sleep, but I'm referring to Jack Hughes. But Sidney Crosby out 4 weeks. How did the Devils prospects look? Because this is a 4-point game. This is a Metropolitan Division game. The Pittsburgh Penguins are in one of those, bubble playoff spots. How did the Devils handle this game, and what are your thoughts?
Down the middle, you focus more on Evgeny Malkin, obviously.
Yeah.
But they have young players who are finding ways to kind of go above and beyond this year. Brian Rust has had a good year. They made the trade for Stuart Skinner. They got rid of Jari. I'm not sure that I'm not sure really either team won that trade. But the Devils on paper, I think, are the more talented team. They're just the worst team this year.
Yeah.
It just hasn't clicked. And Pittsburgh, on the back of Sidney Crosby in a lot of ways, has surprised a lot of people. And if the Devils play like they played yesterday, they can win any game, but you got to finish. You got to score goals. So we'll see if they're able to find the back of the net in this one. Being on the road, maybe away from the home crowd, there's no distractions this time. There's not going to be the ceremony the night before.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I always said usually when the Devils do something outside, of the game, and they do ceremonies or charity events and all that kind of stuff, I know it's a necessary evil, but they don't seem like they're focused, and they don't play very well, So, all right, well, let's get everybody's predictions right now. Devils, Penguins, we're going to read out the Thursday night predictions. I'm going to answer a question. Wimpy asking me, did you know Jim Boomer Gordon at all? Boomer Gordon, Sirius XM, NHL Network Radio, host of The Point, did a lot of fantasy hockey with Jake Hahn, I think for the last 10 years on that station. Yes, I knew Boomer Gordon from the start of that channel when it was at the time XM Satellite Radio. The first time I visited the Toronto studios back in, I think, 2007, intern Rob and I were actually talking about it last night. I met Jim at the studios, and he was a really nice guy. The first thing he said is, "Sammy, do you want all these media guides? All these old media guides. 2 years of media. I still have them because they're souvenirs to me. He gave them to me. And they did a tribute on the channel, Vinny. Big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, Boomer. passed away of cancer at age of, I think, 55. Way too soon. Usually a fixture on the radio, if you listen to Sirius XM, it's usually your drive time going to the game, and it's usually you're fighting the snow and ice to get to the game, and there's always that calm voice of a boomer talking hockey, and you know, he wasn't like one of those shock jocks, outrageous predictions, but he had his convictions, and he'll let you know about it in a very polite way. So to answer your question, Wimpy, yes, and I actually sent a few texts to the people at Sirius XM, my condolences and all that. So yeah, I did know him.
That was an outstanding tribute, Sam. You said some very nice words about Boomer. I didn't know him personally, but I was a fan. Yeah. Obviously, anytime I had an opportunity to listen to NHL Network Radio, I did and I do. Any kind of hockey insight, any kind of hockey conversation, I try my best to listen to all of it. And Boomer's show was a big part of it. I play fantasy hockey. I enjoy fantasy hockey. That's obviously a fun part of the conversation, but he will be missed, and he was very talented.
Well, Jay Kahn was one of our board operators years ago, before he was on the show. Then there was Mateo. I don't think he's there anymore. Michael Lippa. I don't know if he's still there. Michael Lippa, and then Scooter, Scott Laughlin. I remember hanging out with him during the 2012 Stanley Cup Finals when it was Devils LA, because it's a national. So all the national guys are down, so it's always like a good time. Or the 2013 draft when we actually did it we did our shows actually at Edison Ale House. That 1 day draft. It wasn't like a 2 day. It was because of the lockout and all that. So it was a 1 day draft, and all the XM guys were down to New Jersey. And they're like, hey, this place is not that bad. It's, but all right. So got some predictions here. Eddie says 3-1 Pens. Ted says 3-2 Devils. As usual, 4-3 Devils. 3-1 Devils. Pete, 4-3 Devils. Joey. Wimpy says 3-2 Devils. Seagot says 3-1 Pens. 3-0 Penguins, says Roman. 2-0 Pens, says AJ Visco of the law offices of AJ Visco and Sons. And Michael Hayes says 2 breakaways, 1 non-pass by Jack, 1 post. Devils win 3-2 in overtime with Jack going to the moon again. Dag X Hansen says 4-2 New Jersey. Grits trick. Wow. And Eddie says, gonna miss Boomer. He was one of my favorites. Yes. So, all right. So, Vinny, what's your prediction?
I think the New Jersey Devils are going to win 3-2.
All right. And Joey B is actually, Vinny Sam, what's for dinner tonight while you're watching the game?
Going by my parents for dinner. So, whatever they put together.
Well, Mama Parise, let me tell you, those meatballs. I stole those meatballs off that stove, but she said I didn't steal it. She was offering it anyway. But anyway, I think she just said that to make me feel good.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But you were welcome. You were welcome to have as much as you want. That was the point of that day. Yeah. Glad you got to experience that.
Thank you. Serve says 3-2 Pens. Hughes, a lot of giveaways again. Yeah. Saying Huckleberry Bowl. Dub Bears 10-2. Don't know what that's all about. But Vinny all cleaned up for dinner at parents' house. No hats allowed, says Joey B. My prediction, I think it's going to be 4-3 Devils. I think the Devils will squeak it out in the end there. It's not going to be a pretty game. I'm predicting 5 turnovers from Jack Hughes today. That's going to be my new thing as well. So we look a little bit, objective, that we're not like, oh, Jack Hughes, he can't do no wrong. No. We keep everybody honest here on the Let's Go Devils podcast. We're going to have Devils After Dark after the game. Scotty at Sirius XM, Liquid Metal, and I will recap the game that was. And Vinny, final thoughts.
I hope the New Jersey Devils find a way to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's more fun when they win than they lose. And I'll see everybody over the weekend.
Vinny, you're going to have to stall because the board has frozen.
The board has frozen. Maybe I
Yeah.
can play the music for you.
You know what? The board is working now, but I prefer you doing it. You want to do it that way?
No. Let
All
the
right.
music play.
All right. Well, actually, I like your version better. B Now B says 1-0 them. All right, getting last second predictions in. Thank you again. Devils After Dark after the game. And enjoy the game, everybody. Devils, Penguins. Till next time, let's go Devils.